Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start off by establishing a fact. Perfectionism is an impossible goal. But let's get rational. Because when we get rational, we start to realize that chasing perfectionism is an utter waste of time. If I were to ask you if you had high expectations of yourself, whether it be in academics, sports, or in your personal experiences, but you were left disappointed when you didn't quite achieve that standard, I'd probably have a sea of hands right now. And I'd like to inform you all that you've fallen into the perfectionism trap. But I'm also here to tell you that it's okay, because I'm here to share with you a method that I personally discovered to help me overcome this trap. The truth is, when you're a perfectionist and you strive to succeed, it means you're ambitious, and that's a wonderful thing. I would say I'm an ambitious person too. I strive to succeed in my IGCSE, in volleyball, and in my personal life and experiences. But why does it feel like perfectionism is the only measure of success in life, when we all know it's a red herring, something that's impossible to achieve? Well, Thomas Curran, a social psychologist, psychology professor at London School of Economics, perfectionism researcher, and the author of The Perfection Trap, which is a must-read, by the way, says that perfectionism is the bottomless pit that depletes us in its pursuit, while to the answer to that deeper question, am I enough, is always over the horizon. Just let that sink in for a bit. As a high school student myself, and a perfectionist to say the least, I resonate with this quote. Because even with my late night study sessions and early morning efforts, I've never really felt satisfied with myself, regardless of my achievements. The truth is, when you're actively striving for more success and you become more petrified of failure, you start to sink into the perfectionism trap even more. Having this mindset actually led me to become a very insecure person who was prone to outbursts of stress and anxiety, who was too blinded to see the good in things, and most importantly, the good in myself. But like I said earlier, having perfectionism can be great and is an admirable trait because it drives us to become better versions of ourselves. But where do we draw the line between being a perfectionist and having ambitious? Well, to answer this question, we need to know that we live in a culture that feeds into perfectionism. Take, for instance, social media. I go on Instagram and I see Kim Kardashian's page and I can't help but feel jealous of her lifestyle. And I'm sure some of you have felt the same. But it's because we've become so used to seeing these sort of posts that we become oblivious to the fact that this isn't reality. Everything, and I mean everything, is fabricated. And it's also because we're so scared that we're going to be compared to these people that we actively try our hardest to become what we see in them. But having this mindset will only lead you to become more insecure about what you have, what you own, or what you look like. I'd like to share with you all something that one of my smartest yet closest friends had shared with me recently. She told me that the better you achieve, the more is expected from you. Even though she was achieving top band in every single exam, her perfectionism mindset drove her to become more than just somebody with really high standards. She became someone blindly chasing the impossible. And that's where we draw the line between being a perfectionist and having ambition. Ambitious people know that it's great to have goals in life, but they know when it is appropriate to take a step back and not get caught up in the stress cycle. While perfectionists, on the other hand, are highly meticulous, overachieving, and they typically hold the belief that whatever they do, they're never enough. If you believe yourself to be a perfectionist and resonate with my friend, I'm here to share with you a method that I've used, and I call it the improvisation mindset. When we think about improvisation, we typically think about something that goes on in theater where the entire performance is spontaneous and unplanned. Or we might also think that it's about going with the flow and quick thinking on your feet. But it's so much more than that. In truth, the improvisation mindset is about accepting unforeseen circumstances and learning from them, whether it be difficult situations. As humans, we're bound to face failures in our life because nothing will ever go the way we plan it to be, or nothing will ever go smoothly, which is part of the reason why having the perfectionism mindset will only do you more harm than good. The improvisation mindset is about being open-minded, resilient, and persevering. It's about knowing that you might not get it right the first time, and it's okay. Perfectionism forces us to be rigid and fearful of failure, while the improvisation mindset is about being forgiving of yourself and seeing mistakes as opportunities for growth. But why is this important? Why is this random 15-year-old girl telling me this, and why should I listen? Well, when you start to embrace the improvisation mindset, you start to realize that perfectionism is never the end goal, and it never will be. Progress and continuous improvement is. Like I said earlier, as humans, we're bound to face hardships in our lives because nothing will ever run smoothly. But it's the way that we deal with those situations that we can become better versions of ourselves. There's actually science behind the improvisation mindset and how it works. Dr. Charles Lim started studying the brain scans of improvisers in 2008 to see how improvisers' brains looked like when they were improvising, and he found significant differences. You see, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is part of the brain that's in charge of cognitive functions that can control our emotions. In other words, the inner critic in your head that second guesses every word, every movement, and every action of yours. While the medial prefrontal cortex is part of the brain that can boost creativity. Dr. Charles Lim essentially found out that when they were improvising, improvisers would have decreased their dorsolateral prefrontal cortex activity while their medial prefrontal cortex activity increased. Shocking, right? Well, we all know that the improvisation mindset can help people be less critical of ourselves. But how can they actually embody this mindset? Well, we can do so from learning from Clay Drinkle's 12 lessons of improv, amongst which I want to focus on a few that have personally helped me the most. The first core principle of the improvisation mindset is mindfulness, defined by the Cambridge Dictionary as the practice of being aware of your body, mind, and feelings in the present moment. And might I highlight that mindfulness is so much more than just meditating. Achieving mindfulness can be as simple as walking around and naming objects. An exercise that Drinkle recommends that, while it seems really trivial, can actually help focus the brain and can add an element of fun. Another really important technique used by a lot of elite athletes, such as Michael Phelps, is called visualization. What Phelps essentially does is he would lay down and run a visual videotape of his best swim yet, and he basically fools his brain into thinking that this is the real deal. He says that when I would visualize, it will be what you don't want it to be, what you want it to be, and what it could be. And in turn, you're always ready for whatever comes next. Mental imagery and visualization has helped to prove to people to not get caught up in the stress cycle and maximize performance, which in the long run, improve your mood. Another lesson I think is crucial in mastering the improvisation mindset is learning not to dwell on our mistakes, but instead look for the good in them. Look, I'm not saying that we can't have any negative emotions or be guilty about having pessimistic thoughts. What I mean is accepting the reality of the situation, but not being blindsided by negativity. For instance, I hate exams, and I'm sure a lot of others feel the same. When I feel myself getting caught up because of it, I tell myself, maybe exams are a good way to assess how I'm doing right now so I can know what to do better in the future. It's all about the change in perspective. Third, we tend to be quite judgmental, not only towards ourselves, but towards other people too. And I don't blame you for it. You see, our brains can't hold too much information at a time. It's a fact. But if we only fill it up with negative thoughts about other people, we simply can't move on from anything. Because we can't be open to realizing all the amazing things that are happening around us. So this lesson is learning to stop being so judgmental. When you're so stuck up about people, comparing yourself to others and being jealous of what you have and they don't, you end up polluting yourself with hatred and resentment, which will only turn you bitter. And this bitterness will really affect your interactions with not only yourself, but with other people as well. Not to say you shouldn't care about what other people think or how you act around them, but what if you saw people in a positive light instead of negative? What if you start treating others around you with more optimism? Because it's only when you start to celebrate the good in others that you start to celebrate the good in yourself. What I'm trying to say is, the improvisation mindset is about being human. It's taught me not to become hyperfixated on the small details that make me imperfect. It's taught me not to reject failure and use that instead as a driving force to become a better version of myself. And it's taught me to value myself and recognize that every little step I take in life can accumulate to big change, and that success can only come then. So I encourage you all today to try the improvisation mindset. The next time you find yourself chasing perfectionism, take a step back and ask yourself, how can I approach a situation with more optimism and kindness? How can I be kinder to myself and more forgiving? How can I treat the people around me with more openness? Because I promise it will transform the way you approach your goals and your life. Thank you.